Hello my dear viewers, I would like to thank you for watching the video and I wanted to say subscribe to my YouTube channel. I will be very grateful and you will not miss new videos. Enjoy the video. My name is Jason Hill and if you're hearing this, I guess I made it out alive. Or maybe I didn't. Honestly, I'm not even sure anymore. This all started 2 weeks ago, but it feels like it's been years. Sometimes the past and present blur together in ways that make you question what's real. Anyway, I need to start at the beginning. I need someone to know what happened. It was just another Monday night, or so I thought. I'm a delivery driver, working nights to pay off some student loans. Most of my routes are boring, quiet suburban neighborhoods or downtown offices where no one even bothers to say thanks. But that night was different. I got a call from dispatch just before my shift ended. "Hey, Jason," they said. "One last delivery for the night. It's a priority package. No signature required, just drop it off." I groaned. Of course, they'd give me the weird ones. But overtime meant extra cash, so I took the address. It wasn't far, just a few miles out of town. The place was called Silverwood Heights. Now, I've lived in this area my whole life, but I'd never heard of Silverwood Heights. It wasn't on my GPS either. I had to use an old map I found in the glove compartment. That should have been my first clue to turn around, but I was too tired to care. The road out there was narrow and dark, surrounded by nothing but trees. No street lights, no houses, just this eerie emptiness. When I finally found the place, I almost missed it. The sign was old and half hidden by vines. Silverwood Heights wasn't a neighborhood, it was an old, run-down apartment complex. The kind of place you don't want to be after dark. The windows were boarded up, and the air smelled like mildew and rust, but there was one light on. Just one, flickering above Unit 12. I grabbed the package from the back seat. It was small, about the size of a shoebox, and heavier than I expected. No return address, just the words "deliver to Unit 12." I knocked on the door, but there was no answer. Just that light, flickering like it was about to give up. I thought about leaving the box on the porch and driving off, but something told me to wait. After a few seconds, the door opened just a crack. I couldn't see who was inside, but I heard a voice. It was soft, almost a whisper. "Come in," they said. My heart sank. I didn't want to go in there, but the tone of their voice. It was off, not scared, not angry, just hollow. Against my better judgment, I stepped inside. The place was worse on the inside. The walls were bare, stained with watermarks and God knows what else. The air was cold, colder than it should have been. There was furniture, but it was all wrong, like someone had moved in decades ago and never left. I called out, "Hello. I have your delivery." No answer. Just silence. Then I saw it. In the middle of the living room, there was a table, and on the table was a note. Just one line, scrawled in messy handwriting. "Don't look inside the box." I stared at it, feeling my pulse quicken. I told myself it was just a joke, someone messing with me. But deep down, I knew it wasn't. I should have left. I should have walked out and never looked back, but curiosity is a dangerous thing. I sat the box down on the table, next to the note. My hands were shaking as I reached for the lid. I wasn't going to open it just to check if it was taped shut. But before I could touch it, I heard something behind me. It was faint, but clear enough to make me freeze. Someone or something was there. I spun around, expecting to see the owner of the apartment, but there was nothing. Just the open doorway and that flickering light outside. That's when the box fell, not tipped over, fell like someone had pushed it. It hit the floor with a thud and the lid popped open. I couldn't stop myself. I looked. The box hit the floor with a heavy thud and the lid slid open just enough for me to see inside. At first, I thought it was empty. But then I noticed something small, barely visible. At the bottom, it was wrapped in a dark cloth. My stomach churned. Whatever was in there. It wasn't right. I hesitated. The note's warning, "Don't look inside the box," was screaming in my head. But curiosity has a way of digging its claws into you, doesn't it? Slowly, I reached down and peeled back the cloth. That's when I saw it. It was an old photograph. Black and white, faded around the edges. At first, I couldn't make out what it was. A house, maybe. No, not a house. A room, empty, except for a chair. And sitting in that chair was me. I froze. The photo was grainy, but it was unmistakable. The same jacket, same jeans, even the scar on my left hand. It was me sitting in a chair, staring at the camera with this blank expression. But here's the thing, I'd never been in that room before. Never seen it in my life. I wanted to believe it was some kind of trick, a doppelganger, maybe. But as I stared at the photo, a memory surfaced. A dream, or something that felt like a dream. I remembered sitting in that chair, staring at the camera. I remembered someone or something standing behind the lens. I slammed the lid back on the box and stood up. My legs were shaking. I didn't know what to do. My instinct was to leave, to run out of that apartment and never come back, but as I turned toward the door, I saw it. Another note. This one was taped to the inside of the door. It hadn't been there before, I was sure of it. The handwriting was the same as the first note, messy and rushed. It said, "You've been chosen. Do not leave." I felt trapped. My mind was racing, trying to piece it all together. Chosen for what? Who left the notes, and why me? I grabbed the box and headed for the door anyway. Screw the warnings, I wasn't sticking around to find out what they meant. As soon as I stepped into the hallway, something changed. The flickering light above the door was gone. The air felt heavier, thicker, like the walls were closing in. And then I heard it, a sound that made my skin crawl. It was coming from the far end of the hall. Steady, deliberate, getting closer. I couldn't see anyone, but I knew I wasn't alone. My heart was pounding so loud I could barely hear myself think. I backed up toward the stairs, clutching the box like it was a lifeline. That's when I saw them. Two figures, standing in the shadows. Their outlines were just barely visible, but their eyes, those I could see clearly, pale, glowing, and locked right on me. They didn't move, didn't speak, just stood there, watching. I didn't wait to find out what they wanted. I bolted down the stairs, nearly tripping over myself. I didn't stop until I was outside, gasping for air. But the second I hit the parking lot, I realized something was wrong. My car was gone, the lot was empty. I spun around, trying to make sense of it. That's when I saw the building, or rather, where the building had been. Silverwood Heights was gone. In its place was nothing but an empty field, overgrown with weeds and littered with broken concrete. It was like it had never been there. The box was still in my hands. I thought about throwing it into the field, leaving it behind. But before I could, I heard something, a voice. Quiet at first, then louder. It wasn't coming from inside the box. It was coming from me. I dropped the box and ran. I didn't stop running until I made it back to my apartment. But even now, I can still hear that voice, and I can feel them watching me. For 2 days, I stayed locked in my apartment. I didn't go to work, didn't answer my phone. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw them, those glowing eyes in the hallway, staring at me like they were waiting for something. And that voice, "Do not leave," it kept playing over and over in my head like a song I couldn't shut off. I thought I was losing my mind. I threw out the clothes I'd worn that night. Burned the map I used to find Silverwood Heights. Anything to erase the memory, but the box, I couldn't get rid of it. I left it outside my apartment door, hoping someone would take it. But every time I checked, it was still there, like it was waiting for me to bring it back inside. The morning of the 3rd day, there was a knock at my door. Not the mailman, not my landlord. It was soft, deliberate. Like whoever was on the other side knew I was there but wasn't in any rush. I froze, my heart pounding. Then the knocking stopped, and I heard the faint rustle of paper sliding under the door. I waited a few minutes before I opened the door. No one was there, but there was a note. Same handwriting as before. Messy and uneven. It said, "You still have time. Bring the box back." Underneath was an address I didn't recognize. Someplace called Ravenwood Grove, 3 towns over. I wanted to ignore it, to throw the note in the trash and pretend it didn't exist. But something about that name, Ravenwood Grove, it got under my skin. I didn't know how, but it felt familiar. Like I'd heard it before, though I couldn't remember where. By the time the sun set, I was already on the road. I told myself it was just to get answers, to end whatever this was once and for all, but deep down I knew the truth. I wasn't in control anymore. Whatever was happening, it was pulling me along like a puppet on a string. The drive to Ravenwood Grove took 2 hours. Most of it was on empty highways, surrounded by trees and farmland. The kind of drive that makes you feel like the world's just a little too big. When I finally found the place, it was almost midnight. Ravenwood Grove wasn't a town or even a neighborhood. It was a single house sitting at the end of a dirt road. The house was old but not abandoned. The windows glowed faintly, like there were lights on inside. A cold breeze cut through the air, carrying the faint smell of damp wood and decaying leaves. I grabbed the box from the passenger seat and stepped out of the car. When I saw the box with my name written on it, I felt the world tilt. My own handwriting, how was that even possible? My first instinct was to run, but where would I go? It was like every road led me right back to this moment. I had no choice but to open it. Sound effect, faint echo as Jason slowly opens the box. Jason narration. Inside, I found a photograph and a key. The photograph was black and white, just like before, but this time it was clearer. It showed me standing outside my childhood home at 19 Ashwood Lane. In the background, someone or something was watching from the window. My hands started to shake as I picked up the key. It was old, rusted, and ice-cold. But the moment I touched it, everything fell into place. Sound effect, faint whispers growing louder, morphing into a rush of air. Jason narration. Memories flooded back, ones I didn't even know I had. I remembered sitting in a chair, staring at a camera. The darkness surrounding me, the whispers telling me what to do. And then, a voice, my own voice, but colder, commanding me to deliver the box. That's when I realized this wasn't the first time I'd been here. Sound effect, Jason's breath quickens, faint heartbeat thumping. Jason narration. The memories weren't from dreams. They were real. I had delivered a box before. Years ago, to someone else. I didn't know why or how, but I knew one thing for certain: whatever this was, it was a cycle. One that I was now trapped in. Sound effect, low hum, faint wind blowing through the room. Jason narration. I had to finish it. I had to take the box to the address written on the tag, 19 Ashwood Lane, my childhood home. The place where it all began. Sound effect, Jason's footsteps echoing, music building in intensity. Crime Story script, Episode 1, Part 5 revised. Intro music begins, quiet and foreboding. Jason narration. I pulled up to 19 Ashwood Lane just after sunset. The house looked the same as I remembered, small, with peeling paint and broken shutters. But something about it felt off, like it was alive and waiting for me. The key in my hand felt heavier with each step I took toward the door. Sound effect, gravel crunching underfoot, faint wind rustling leaves. Jason narration. When I unlocked the door and stepped inside, the memories hit me like a tidal wave. This was where it started. Years ago, I'd found the same box on this very doorstep. I'd opened it, found the key, and followed its instructions to deliver it to someone else. It had been passed to me, just like I was passing it on now. The house was part of it, too. A piece of the puzzle. Sound effect, door creaking shut. Jason's breathing grows unsteady. Jason narration. The air inside was thick, suffocating. The walls seemed to hum, almost like they were alive, and then I heard it, the voice. My voice, coming from the darkness at the end of the hallway. Jason's voice, cold and distorted. You've come full circle. Sound effect, faint whispers, growing louder. Jason narration. I followed the sound, even though every part of me screamed to turn back. The hallway led to a single room, the same room I'd seen in the photographs. The chair was there, sitting under a single light bulb that flickered weakly. On the chair was another box, identical to the one I'd been carrying. And standing behind it was me. Sound effect, sudden rush of air, music crescendos. Jason narration. The figure looked just like me, but its eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. It smiled, cold and unfeeling. You understand now, don't you? It said, this is your purpose. To carry the box, to pass it on, just like I did. Jason narration. My knees went weak as the truth slammed into me. This wasn't just a coincidence or a random nightmare. It was a cycle, one that had been going on for years, maybe decades. Each person who received the box became the next in line, delivering it to the next target. And now, it was my turn to pass it on. Sound effect, faint ticking of a clock, echoing footsteps. Jason narration. The figure handed me the new box, and as soon as I touched it, the room disappeared. I was standing outside again, under the glow of the street lights, holding the box. But this time, there was a new name written on it, a new address, a new target. Sound effect, Jason's heartbeat, slow and deliberate. Jason narration. I don't remember how I got back to my car. I don't even remember driving home, but now, as I sit here writing this, I know what I have to do. I have to deliver the box to you. Dramatic sound sting, fading to silence, text on screen, the cycle continues. What would you do if the box was delivered to you? Let us know in the comments. Stay tuned for more chilling stories. Outro music fades in, haunting and unresolved. Thank you for watching this video to the end. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. This will help me work better and faster for you. I would be grateful, so watch my other videos.